We're tracking two big winter storms across the United States that could bring significant snow and ice to parts of the United States. The first one from the mid-Atlantic into the Northeast, and the second one along the Gulf Coast and into the Southeast U.S. And we're also going to have a huge Arctic air mass across the central U.S., bringing the coldest temperatures of the season. And we're also at the late portion of this video going to go over the early February outlook. So a lot to talk about here. Welcome back to Weather on the Go. My name is Hunter, and if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow along with all of my daily updates. We do two-a-days, late morning, early afternoon, and again in the evening when we do have an active weather pattern. So subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you covered. Like the video by giving it a thumbs up. Also, share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's go in and look here at the weather alerts across the Mid-Atlantic. We have winter storm warnings in pink stretching all the way back here into portions of eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, into eastern Kentucky, western Virginia, and then up the Appalachians there in West Virginia here into parts of Maryland, eastern and southern portions of Pennsylvania, including the Poconos region, and extending up into northern Jersey. And then looking at the Northeast here, we have southern New York, much of the state of Massachusetts, Connecticut, northern Rhode Island, into southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and coastal Maine, that we have those winter storm warnings where we are gearing up for some significant snow here through your Sunday. Let's look at this afternoon's depiction of the radar, and we could see some heavier snows breaking out across West Virginia. Some of those snows extending back here into eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, and western North Carolina as well. And then we'll start to see the snowfall fill in across southern and southeastern Pennsylvania, Maryland, all the way up into northern Jersey this afternoon. And then the I-95 corridor this evening will be the area to watch for 1 to 2 inch per hour snow rates from Boston down through Hartford and New York City, getting in on that as well. Trenton, New Jersey, an area that hasn't seen a lot of snow so far, is going to get it this evening. And then as we go through the overnight hours, we're still seeing the snow flying in Boston, Hartford, the final few flakes moving through New York City. And the heaviest snow will be up into coastal Maine and up toward Caribou as we go into the overnight hours. And then finally by Monday morning, MLK Day, we're seeing the final few flakes moving through the state of Maine and off of Cape Cod as we start the day tomorrow. And after it's all said and done, we're going to be seeing some hefty snow amounts across portions of the Appalachians from southwest PA down here into western Maryland and West Virginia. Those could be adding up to 10 inches in those higher elevations, and we could see a couple inches of snow as far south as eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee there, and western North Carolina. Otherwise, a 6 to 10 inch swath here from coastal Maine all the way back here through places like Boston, Hartford, getting into New York City, northern Jersey, and then into eastern Pennsylvania. That's where we could be dealing with 6 to as much as 10 inches worth of snowfall. And looking at travel, how it will be impacted, major travel implications are possible here, but probably more moderate travel implications across portions of New York City, into northern Jersey, and even into Philadelphia, down toward Baltimore, Washington, D.C. And then looking up further to the north, Boston, all the way up here through Augusta, Portland, and even Caribou, Maine. We're seeing those minor to moderate travel disruptions going through your MLK Day on Monday. And this cold air on the backside is going to be some serious stuff. We're talking about the coldest air of the season. Notice how it's oozing all the way to the south to the Gulf Coast. These are temperature anomalies in the deeper blues and purples that are 20, 30, even 40 degrees below the norm for this time of year. And it gets even worse as we go into MLK Day on the 20th tomorrow. You can see across the northern tier of the U.S., these are bright pinks. Those are 45 to 50 degrees below normal temperature anomalies up there. So let's look at our high temperatures this afternoon, and we're going to be sub-zero across much of North Dakota, Minnesota, and northern Wisconsin. These areas will be below zero with high temperatures. Single digits not that far to the south, going all the way down into Nebraska, Iowa, northern Missouri, into northern Illinois for high temperatures. Single digits above zero. But our wind chills in those areas will be below zero. So you can see 0 to 15 degrees below zero with our wind chills in Chicago, into Des Moines there, even as far south as Kansas City. And then further to the north, North Dakota, for example, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, our wind chills will be closing in on 30 degrees below zero. And then across southern Canada, Saskatchewan, in towards Manitoba and Ontario, that's where we could see dangerous, life-threatening wind chills approaching 45 degrees below zero. Starting off MLK Day tomorrow, going to be very cold. These are just your air temperatures, look at that, 25 degrees below zero in northern North Dakota, 30s below zero with air temperatures down here in Ontario and Quebec, where the core of that cold air is. And look at these wind chills, how life-threatening these wind chills will be. 50 to 55 degrees below zero wind chills from Manitoba through much of the province of Ontario and into western Quebec, and still not much better, approaching 50 below there in North Dakota, and 40s below zero wind chills there tomorrow morning in Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. And it doesn't get much better tomorrow afternoon. These are your high temperatures. Yes, you're seeing that correctly. 15 degrees to 20 degrees below zero. That's all we'll be able to warm up to across North Dakota into Minnesota, and our wind chills will remain 30 to 40 degrees below zero, even into the peak heating of the day, the afternoon there in North Dakota and Minnesota, with the sub-zero wind chills going all the way down to the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle, Kansas, and into Missouri there in the Ohio Valley. So it's going to be a very cold day throughout as we go into the MLK Day tomorrow. Now, we are tracking a major winter storm we've been talking about near the Gulf Coast and into the southeast as we go into this upcoming week. Between Tuesday the 21st and Sunday the 26th, we have this trough kind of hanging around the eastern U.S. Nice blocking here with a ridge across the Northeast Pacific, and that's bringing in all of those cold Arctic temperatures from the north, and you can see those will settle in across the Gulf Coast and into the east as we go into this upcoming week. And there's that storm system, especially honing in on that Tuesday the 21st and Wednesday the 22nd of January time frame. We're going to have a low pressure system developing here in the Lone Star State of Texas, moving off the Gulf Coast here, which should provide enough cold air for snow in places like Houston, New Orleans, and Mobile. And then as we go in towards Wednesday, that low pressure will be just off the coast or near the coast of the Carolinas, bringing snow to places like Cape Hatteras, into Charlotte, into places like Raleigh, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Columbia, a lot of areas there, maybe even as far north as Atlanta, Georgia, seeing snow as we go into Wednesday. So looking at the weather alerts, we have winter storm watches here in the lighter blues. That does extend all the way back into south central Texas, by the way, towards San Antonio and Austin. We also have Houston Metroplex with a winter storm watch, Lake Charles, all the way up here toward Baton Rouge and Alexandria, all the way over here toward New Orleans, Jackson, Mississippi, and Gulfport, Mississippi, seeing those. Winter weather advisories extending down here toward the Rio Grande Valley, and we also have those extending up there toward Texarkana, Shreveport as well. And then further to the east, we have winter storm watches that extend into the Montgomery area in Alabama, Mobile, the northwest Florida Panhandle, all the way into central Georgia toward the Atlanta region. And then we have winter weather advisories currently that should fill in across southern Georgia and North Florida. This does actually include the Jacksonville area with winter weather advisories as well. That's how far south a lot of this wintry weather will be. So Monday night, we're going to start off with some snow here in central and east Texas. You see this orange shaded color in pink. That's where we could have a mixture of freezing rain and sleet. Rio Grande Valley down here toward northern Mexico will stay all rain. And then we'll see dynamic cooling go to work, and we'll start to see snowfall possibly as far south as northern Mexico and the Rio Grande Valley. Heavier snows in Houston extending over to Lake Charles here, Baton Rouge, Alexandria, and even New Orleans on Tuesday. And then moving it east on Tuesday night, we're going to see snowfall as far south as New Orleans, Gulfport, Mississippi, Mobile, and some heavier snows perhaps for the Florida Panhandle. And then that will transition more to a notable ice storm across Jacksonville, Gainesville, into the Tallahassee region, southern Georgia over here towards Savannah, a notable ice storm potential, and then heavier snows up here toward Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and also Wilmington Tuesday night. And then finally, by the time we get to Wednesday, all rain for central southern Florida with the system's warm side, and the cold side of the system will be off into the northwest Atlantic, and it's not really going to be giving us much for the I-95 corridor. That colder Arctic air, 1035 high pressure there over Maryland, is going to keep us on the I-95 corridor pretty dry as we go into Wednesday. So looking at the numbers out here for snowfall, Monday the 20th, tomorrow, into Tuesday the 21st, seeing some conservative numbers. This is basically the national blend of models, and it kind of gives you an average most likely outcome. And you can see a good 2 to 4 inches for Houston. Over here into Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, Alexandria, New Orleans seeing at least 1 to 3 inches. And then looking at the ice accumulation, at least a few hundredths to a tenth of an inch of ice is likely across southern Texas, including parts of the Rio Grande Valley, along the Gulf Coast here in Texas from Victoria up there towards the Galveston area, and then across portions there of southern Louisiana. Now looking here at the southeast view, a nice swath here of 2 to 4 inches extending across Mississippi into Alabama, northwest Florida into Georgia, the Carolinas here, and these numbers again could be a lot higher than what they are shown here. This is just a conservative average, the national blend of models. And looking at the ice, very conservative look here of ice. We could see 1 to 2/10 of an inch of ice there from Savannah, Georgia into southern Georgia there, and then North Florida from Tallahassee to Gainesville to Jacksonville up to 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. And again, these numbers could be low. We could even see a quarter, half an inch of ice here with some of the models that are showing that across southern Georgia and North Florida Tuesday the 21st and into Wednesday the 22nd. So keeping an eye on those dates there. Looking here at the temperature outlook going in towards the rest of January, colder air will continue to filter in, especially the strongest of the cold air across the north and out west here. And looking at the precipitation outlook through the rest of the month, very active across this part of the country in the east and down here near the Gulf Coast. So more winter storms will be possible through the rest of January. And let's look at early February as well. As we transition to the new month through the first 7-8 days of the month, we're going to start to see a ridge of high pressure build in and a pattern change across the east. And that will filter in warmer temperatures than normal. And then we see more normal to below normal temperatures out west. And you can see that reflected here on the temperature anomaly map through the 8th of February. It backs off on the cold air. The cold air goes back up to where it should be in northern Canada and up toward the Arctic. We still have some cold air around to tap into, but it's not the Arctic true air that we are seeing today and tomorrow across the heartland of the country. Now, this is going to change the pattern, and we're going to see that ridge become more dominant in the southeast, and that will change our storm track as well. And you can see we're going to have more systems coming in across the Pacific Northwest, diving down into the central southern Rockies, and then lifting up across either the Midwest, into the Ohio Valley, and even into the Great Lakes region before exiting in eastern Canada. And that's the pattern we're going to be seeing. Heavier rains, maybe even some severe weather across the Gulf Coast into the southeast with this type of pattern, and then heavier snows and ice on the northwest side or right underneath of that low pressure storm track. And that could bring some snow to areas that haven't seen a lot of it, like the Twin Cities, Chicago, Milwaukee, Des Moines, Kansas City, Lincoln, Nebraska. Keeping an eye on you folks during the first 8 days of February, and I actually think that will continue likely even into the third week of February across the north with that pattern. So definitely seeing a snowier, colder February to the north, a little bit milder and a little bit more rainy, stormy across the south. So looking here at the forecast moving forward, we got a major winter storm from the mid-Atlantic into the northeast, major winter storm near the Gulf Coast here and into the southeast, very cold Arctic high pressure across the middle of the country, bringing the coldest air of the season. So subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you covered here. Follow along with all my daily updates. I'll see you all here this evening as well. So subscribe to the channels and turn on the post notification bell so I do see you this evening and you are notified when that video does come out. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, share this video with friends, family, and on social media. And also, as always, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. You know, we'll always answer your questions here on the channel, any that you do have. So jot them down in the comment section, and I'll see you all in the next video.